you said before we started recording that you're no longer on a plant-based diet.
Oh, you're trying to get me here? You're like, are you going to endorse meat now? You need to endorse meat.
Yeah. Can we? Can we break the news?
Yeah. Well, I'm not on a plant-based diet, and that's mostly because I.
But you correct me if I'm wrong. When we originally talked about this, it was mostly for like ethical reasons, right? Or was it primarily health?
It was primarily ethical reasons originally, yes, and yes, it was ethical reasons mostly, yes. Maybe there's some health reason. You can get your cholesterol a little bit lower.
Yeah.
You'll probably end up with a lower body weight. Like that's probably what the research literature says. If a whole food plant-based diet, you probably end up with a significantly lower body weight. You end up like Michael Greger looking like a skeleton.
Oh yeah, but only because like whole plants are just so not calorie dense, right?
Yeah.
But also with less muscle mass.
Yes, you end up like a skinny person with a belly. You look like Bill Gates, smaller Bill Gates or something. So,
skinny fat.
Yeah. It sucks. And of course, I trained a lot, so I never ended up looking like that. But yeah. So yeah, I did it for primarily for ethical reasons. But at some point, I wanted to get jacked and like huge, and so I was doing more meat. And then I had this dream of making like a plant-based food company, which I still may do, where we, instead of having just like this ideology, just eat more soy or whatever, stupid thing. What if there's like a plant-based food that, I think we've talked to you about this, sent messages, and you're like, I actually sent you a message like, are you interested in doing this? He's like, no, man, I'm not interested in doing this. Like, what is this?
Because you were like, if I had a piece of steak, we're going to get you to eat a soy burger.
Well, no, but it's this one. It's with modern technology, I don't know if you follow like the Quest food stuff. I just had a protein bar, right? That protein bar tastes really good, right? That's like using food processing technology for, health.
Yeah.
There may be food processing technology that you can use to then make plant-based foods that are healthy, that also are supplemented by sort of the things that you'd find more in meat, that will then sort of compensate for the downsides of that. And of course, people don't like that idea. Because they're like, I don't want to eat this like food made by factories and stuff. But
what's your take from an ethical standpoint? Your take on the notion that, if you were to sacrifice one cow, that could feed you.
Yeah, I'm not so interested in the sort of like the sentience kind of argument. Like, it's a sentient being, therefore you can't kill it. That's not like my ethical. It's more like the way that they're treated, right? Like factory farmed animals, like factory farmed chickens. It's kind of like torture, especially the egg laying chickens that stay in the same cage all the time.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. I think most sentient people would agree. Most reasonable people would agree with that, but that doesn't mean that there aren't producers that are doing it differently.
Sure.
That's always been my argument. Like the way to improve the system is not by opting out of it, but instead by voting with your dollar for the system that you want to see. I mean, a perfect example of that, maybe it's not a perfect example, but like Siete Foods, for example, which is a food manufacturer. They make ultra processed foods, but they've committed to, most of their products, I believe, are grain free. They don't use seed oils. I mean, obviously that's a whole separate debate, but like they from day one sought to be a better for you producer of ultra processed comfort foods. And they were recently acquired by PepsiCo for $1.2 billion, based on the success and, of their brand, and I think that's a really solid illustration of the fact that, their success got the attention of this mega multinational junk food producer, PepsiCo, right? Producer of sugar sweetened beverages and the like, who now got behind and put their money where their mouth is to get behind this better for you ultra processed food producer, which is the result of people voting for their dollars for a company that's doing things differently, using slightly better ingredients than the norm.
I like that idea. I think that's a really good thing. The problem with sort of the animal product stuff, like let's look at like pastured eggs, right?
Yeah.
Truly not free range, but like pastured. Like there's these distinctions. Like there's cage free, there's free range, and apparently like there's pastured. Like there's several different, and then only like pasture are really the ones that they actually run around all the time. Like cage free, apparently they have to have like 30 minutes, and it's like this small enclosure that's outside. Like, oh, that's to do the real ones, it costs like a lot more money. It's like 3 times as much money for the same eggs. Consumers just aren't going to buy that.
Yeah. It's more expensive.
So it's like there's also a scalability problem. You can't. We're privileged, and this is kind of part of the whole criticism of like the wellness sort of thing. It's like as privileged people we can do that. And it's good, right? It's good that we look after our health, but like you're not going to scale that solution up to like some like poor second generation Mexican in Texas, for example, or just most people aren't going to be as concerned about it as us. So if you want to eliminate the problem, if you want to like not eliminate, but if you want to really substantially address the problem, get rid of like these terrible factory farms that do abuse animals, it's not really enough. Consumer choice is good, but like given the scalability problem and the price issues, people are not going to opt into that system. You have to create a new system. And one alternative system is to have basically the same sorts of nutrition, but in like a processed form that's like using modern technology that could get you to the same outcome.
Yeah.
Again, there's limitations to that too, right? Because people aren't gonna like be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna replace eggs with this weird bar that you made, this crunchy chips or whatever the hell you did. I'm not gonna do that. That's weird, and it is weird. And so maybe you're not gonna get everybody to opt out of it. But if you make more choices along those lines, right? You make the choices of that. Maybe this is the better framing, right? I just realized you make you give people pastured egg choice, but you also give people other like plant-based choices that are maybe like industrially produced or whatever, or you can use like this fungi protein or like the cell-based meat. Like there's all sorts of other and you add more things to the menus that then people can then maybe opt out of and make them better.
Yeah.
Here's one of the really interesting ideas I like. What if you could take some of like the advantages of veganism, the health advantages, assuming we believe in cholesterol hypothesis, the lipid hypothesis to some extent?
Yeah.
Okay. You can get cholesterol down through certain, like there's all sorts of nutritional ways to do that, right? Less dietary cholesterol for hyper-responders. I'm a hyper-responder, so I get really high cholesterol in response to eating eggs.
How do you know? Have you done like the phytosterol test?
No. Well, that's interesting. I haven't done that, but I have like seen what my blood cholesterol looks like when I'm eating a ton of eggs, and it's crazy. It's like really high.
Wow.
And I've seen what it looks like when I'm not. So, but I haven't done a controlled experiment, so I'm a little bit spreading misinformation about myself. But there are other ways, like for example, psyllium husk, which is what's in Metamucil, that can also achieve a similar drop in cholesterol. It can see a very substantial drop in blood cholesterol levels.
I don't think most people know this, but it's super interesting that you bring it up. It's every 1 gram of soluble fiber you ingest usually leads to a 1 point. So it's like a 1-to-1 ratio. Every 1 gram of soluble fiber you ingest typically leads to a 1 point LDL drop.
So there are ingredients that we can add to foods and approaches that we could potentially take that could still. So Quest has these chips that are like these protein chips. I've never had them, but I had a girlfriend who did, and she said that they were amazing.
They're great.
Yeah. So what if we can make like these processed foods that have these unique qualities that traditionally you'd never have because you're using modern technology, and you're lowering blood cholesterol, you're adding protein to the diet, you're adding choline, creatine. What is that? What is the
Cocoflavanols?
The other one that you were mentioning, the one that
astaxanthin.
You add astaxanthin. You can make these special functional foods that are really cheap and that taste really good. So it's like one of the things that is like really cool that I think that Elon does is he makes he's like helping with the environment, right? But the Teslas are also badass, right? What if you can make foods that are like ethical, but like they're so badass that people want to eat them, even though maybe they don't give a shit about the ethical part. They just want to eat them because they're so badass. What if we can make plant-based foods that are like that? And so that like becomes like my dream that I'll never do because I can't ever get myself to write the business proposal. I've like have it written, but then I end up doing like other stuff.
Well, you're right. There are certainly some ultra processed foods that are great. The Quest chips are fantastic, and I have no affiliation with Quest, but like they're made with psyllium husk too, by the way, and yeah, they're great. But yeah, there are definitely some ultra processed foods that I think can be really beneficial.
Yeah, what if we leverage modern technology and leverage like flavor, taste technology? Like they know how to do this, right? They know how to make these hyper palatable. What if you can make hyper palatable healthy foods that actually achieve these specific targeted public health relevant effects, right? Exactly what you're talking about with these better ingredients. Frito-Lay's has been doing something similar with salt for a long time. They used to have these larger granules, but if you crunch them down into smaller granules, you can use less sodium and get the same taste because you have the same surface area, right? Kosher salt. In order to get the same amount of saltiness for kosher salt, assuming it doesn't dissolve into the solution, but it's like on top, you actually need to use more mass salt because the surface area. So by breaking it into smaller particles, you get the same flavor with less. So there's ways to use food processing technology to make foods more healthy. So that was why did we get into the whether I was plant-based. So this is my dream, but then I was like, yeah, this is the excuse I made for myself. It's like, I want to get jacked. I've got like milk. I'm going to drink like a gallon of milk a day. And I looked much bigger like 2 months ago than I do now. I look ridiculous right now, but I got really big. I was like 160 pounds and I got to like 220, 230. I was like really big. I'm like 215 now and I'm fat, but so it's like whatever. But like, I would drink a gallon of milk a day and I was like, you know what, we'll do the plant-based stuff later. And I was like making an excuse for myself. We'll do it later. And I still do think that we should be concerned about so I'm kind of a hypocrite. We should be concerned about the animals.
Of course.
So
I am.
So
I totally am.
But so we should make more options that will allow people to more easily transition if they want to, or maybe they'll just stop eating eggs because they want to eat my industrially produced stuff more.
Yeah.
And then that horrifies you, right? But we'll put choline in it. Don't worry. We'll put choline in it. We'll put astaxanthin in it. We'll make sure that it replaces the eggs so that you don't have this like health predicament of your ethical. You're like, oh my God, don't eat it. You need to eat eggs. Or maybe, you'll just, in 2 or 3 years, we'll not be friends anymore and you'll be inveighing against me and my food company. So.
No, I definitely indulge in the odd ultra-processed food here and there, but I try to opt for the better for you options. I mean, protein chips.
Yeah, but we could replace animal products with it. You're being nice now. I remember whenever we were DMing about this, you were like, hell no. Like, what the hell is this? You're making fun of me. But yeah, anyway.
Hey, if you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.